Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. This is episode 15 of the Ride Podcast with Curt, Fletcher. My guest today is going to be comedian-Scotty Goff, who I've known for years. I think I met him in 2003, and he's one of the funniest people I've ever met. I just remember a bunch of shows from Laughs in Albuquerque back in the day, and just watching him improvise was just one of my favorite things, like he had so many funny lines that he'd come up with. I even saw him improvise an entire show just about local lawyer Ron Bell when he was in the crowd. And it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. So let's go talk to Scotty Goff, everybody. So what's up, Scotty? How you been, man?
I've been good. How about you?
I'm doing really good.
I retired.
What's that? Yeah, you retired from the school, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great, man. Congrats.
I'm retired. I'm as my son, who's a big like BBC fan. He calls me a pensioner. Hey, you're a pensioner.
That's what have you been doing since you retired?
This is when I knew. Okay, I'm officially retired, which then also puts me in the category of like being an old man, because they messed up my TV schedule, and I used to watch the People's Court while drinking my coffee in the morning, and now it's Dr. Phil. And I'm not going to watch Dr. Phil when I'm drinking my coffee, okay? Because that's not what we do here. All right, you better know that I don't like drinking my coffee. I told my son that. He's like, "Oh my God, it didn't take you very long to become an old man." Like, yeah, it's okay. They messed up my TV schedule. I just watched the Weather Channel.
Yeah. Is The Price is Right still on?
I watch The Price is Right almost every day.
Good. Man, I love The Price is Right. It's a great show. It's a great show.
Almost every day.
Yeah. What time's it on now? 11?
11 to 12.
Okay.
CBS.
I used to always love that commercial they would show with that guy in the hover round, and he'd like sing.
Yeah.
He's such a terrible singer.
I have game shows are like in my DNA.
Yeah.
I'll tell you about it.
Please.
Are we on? Are we recording? Are we already on?
We're recording, yeah.
Okay.
I'll edit out all that weird stuff at the beginning, probably.
Okay. We can touch on it again.
No, I mean like the audio stuff, like with the headphones.
Oh,
I'll leave the Dr. Phil stuff in there.
I'll tell you what. I can't. No, I'm not going to watch. I don't mind watching the People's Court. I don't mind that.
Yeah. Judge Wapner's dead, isn't he?
Yes.
Okay. I haven't seen it in years, so. I remember the music, though. Bow.
But now now they've run out of their pre-COVID episodes, and now they're showing the COVID episodes.
Oh, no.
And they're not trying to pretend anything. They literally have a flat screen TV where the defendant is, and a flat screen TV where the plaintiff is, and a flat screen TV on the judge's desk.
Oh, how funny.
And they show the whole studio, and you see, and so it's one TV talking to another TV. I'm like, that's how we win, Curt. That's how we win.
I'll have to tune into that. That sounds interesting.
See, because Judge Judy, they've now run out of their pre-COVID episodes, but they're trying to fool us because they have they took all the seats for the audience, and the people are in there, and then she is like behind her desk, and you could tell that she's like, Zoom meeting in, and it's like, at least People's Court, they're like, what are we going to do?
What about Price is Right? Are they all pre-COVID episodes?
They're all pre-COVID.
Okay.
Yeah. Our buddy was on last summer.
Who's that?
Freddie Charles.
Oh, yeah.
Freddie,
did
if
you
you're
watch the
watching,
episode?
I love you. I did. And I just happened to stumble upon it because it worked out good for me, because in the summer months, I always watch game shows in the morning, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And I'm like, oh, Price is Right is on. And I click it on, and I'm like, that guy looks like Freddie Charles. And then I see the name tag. Freddie. He made it all the way to the showcase.
Did he really?
He won a car and everything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's so cool.
So my affinity for game shows stems from my mom. My mom was a career teacher. And in the summer, so she had the summer off. And that was back in the days when it was like, you had like 3 solid months.
Oh, yeah.
Of summer. So her thing is she loved game shows because she could never watch them during the school year. It wasn't like it is today. It wasn't like you kids have it today, Curt, with your long hair and your yeah music. It was different back then. We had to walk uphill to the game shows in the snare. So she never got to watch game shows. So she would watch game shows in the kitchen on a black and white TV that my mom and dad won on a game show.
What?
From Bob Barker, pre-Price is Right. And it never occurred to her like
before that.
Truth or Consequences.
Truth or Consequences. That's what I thought.
So it never occurred to her to like pull the TV closer to her kitchen table. So she'd pull her chair around and sit in front of the dishwasher with a cup of coffee. And to this day, I'll go to my mom's house and I see that dishwasher and I just think that was like, there was something, all is right with the world when I was a kid and I would see that. So this summer, we're at my in-laws' house and my in-laws, you know, they're in their 70s, late 70s, and they get up at like 5 a.m., right? And I'm hogging up the TV and my mother-in-law comes in, she's like, would it be okay with you if I watched Bewitched while I eat my breakfast? And and there she was in her nightgown, and it reminded me so much of my mom. And I'm just like, oh my God, that is so sweet. I wish I could say yes, but no. You're not gonna watch Bewitched while I'm here. So of course I'd watch her watching Bewitched and she would lean forward and drink her coffee and eat her. I mean, it was the cutest, sweetest. Oh my God, I love you, mom-in-law. I love you, mom. Well, my father-in-law, he's into like Hogan's Heroes.
Okay.
And he watches the DVDs over and over and over and
oh,
over.
Really?
And so he'll get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and all day long. Plus he's deaf.
Oh,
so
no.
He cranks the volume so like the windows of the house, the guys with the cars. That's my father-in-law, but it's Hogan's here. Hogan. Oh, okay. So back to my. We're gonna start the podcast any moment here. So back to my game shows. So my grandmother, this is my grandmother's home. She bought this house in 1945. My grandfather was overseas during the big one, and she bought this house, and she was actually on 3 game shows in the early 70s. She was on Match Game, like 74 maybe, and she was on Password, and she was on Concentration, I think was the other one. I knew you remember that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I knew she was on those, but again, it was a different time. So I'm in school, I'm not watching game shows. And back then there was no reruns of game shows. No one was showing reruns of game shows. I saw it for the first time 2 summers ago.
Really?
For the first time. And my mom called me because my mom's watching game shows. And she's like, your grandmother's on the TV. And I ran and I didn't know what to do. So I held my phone up to the TV and recorded my grandmother.
Oh, how funny.
Jean Rayburn. And she won.
Oh, cool.
So
that's awesome.
So I always wished I could be a game show host.
Are you reading a book?
I was going to show you my grandmother.
I thought you just busted out a book where you're like, well, it's time for reading. Like Andy Kaufman style.
It was the best of times. It was just the worst of times. I have it here. It's still in my phone. How are you, Curt Fletcher?
You know, I'm doing pretty good, Scotty. I moved back to Albuquerque a few months ago, and it's been staying busy.
How many times does that make for you now that you've moved back to Albuquerque?
Oh, probably 6 or 7.
You're like those old boxers. They're like, that's it for me. I'm retiring. But for you, it's moving. That's it. I'm out of Albuquerque. I'm out. And then like a year later, so good to be back. I love it here. And mark my words, a year from now, I'm out.
Yeah, I'll be gone. Yeah.
Once the Rona's gone,
Yeah.
you're gonna. What made you move back? Okay, first off, you moved from with this last iteration. Was that the Austin or was that the Denver?
Oh, I was in Denver.
Okay.
Yeah, it's too expensive there, and
Denver got too expensive?
oh, it's super expensive there.
Okay, look, I'm gonna show you. I don't know if you can see this. I don't know if you can. Look, that's Gene Rayburn. That's Charles Nelson Riley. That's Gene Rayburn. Okay. Wait a minute.
I miss those old microphones.
No watch. That's my grandmother.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
How funny.
So you moved to Denver.
Yeah.
And it got too pricey in Denver?
Yeah, it's too pricey there.
More than Albuquerque?
Oh, yeah. Way more.
Interesting. How long have you been back?
I moved back in July, first week of July.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I guess if I had some game show money, I could afford to live in Denver, but. Not so much. So have you been on a game show, or have you tried?
I was on Win Ben Stein's Money back in the day, but my episode never aired.
Ah.
Yeah, and I lost so fast.
Oh, really?
Like it was like I'm in Vegas. I'm putting all on red. I'm out of there like immediately. Like I don't like.
Was that a trivia show?
Yeah, that was Jimmy Kimmel. Remember, he was the Andy Richter of that show.
Yeah.
Wow. So, yeah.
So you got booted off pretty quick.
I lost, like, and I knew the answers. It was one of those things I froze, like so.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, like he was a cartoon mouse designed by Walt Disney. I
can't imagine you like freezing up on TV or anything. Is that why they didn't air it?
So early in my like comedy, like I'd only been doing comedy maybe 3 years at that point.
Oh, wow. When did you start doing comedy?
90, 91,
okay,
92, something like that. So like, what would that make? Like 20, 28 years?
Yeah. Wow. What was the scene like in Albuquerque then? Was there a scene?
There was a scene. It was all laughs all the time.
Yeah.
Same laughs time, same laughs channel. It was laughs. And and I came up through the open mic.
Were there a lot of open mics at Laughs, or
one a week?
One a week,
Tuesday.
Okay. Yeah, when I started, it was one per month. It's pretty rough.
Your boss, your Laughs owner, didn't like open mic. He didn't care for the open mics. He didn't. And that's fine. I mean,
yeah.
But when I started, they were like strong. Like we would get 150 people in the audience on a Tuesday, and so the very first time I went on, there was a headliner that was passing through, and he went on. They put me right after him as my very first time, and he did this like killer Barney Fife impression. And you know who Barney Fife is. So every time I talk to you, Curt, I feel like you're so young.
I'm not that young. Look at this gray hair in my beard. See that?
Look, I got one too. Where is it?
I think I see it. Maybe the lighting's bad.
So he did this like killer. They gave him like he did like 20 minutes. And I had 3. And he destroyed. I bet you we had 200 people in the audience that night. I mean, it was a packed house. And I was just like, I almost left. I almost didn't go on. And then I went on and I did so so well. And I'm just like, I'm a genius at this. This is it for me. I'm going to quit my job. And then the next time I went, I did so well the next Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just ate shit for like 4 straight months.
Oh, how funny.
Like, well, I made the mistake. I didn't quite understand what it meant. And I thought, I'm a comedian. I'm doing shows. And so I was trying to have a whole new set every Tuesday when I was first trying to figure out how to write a joke and how to solve the formula, how to crack the code of writing a joke. And so I was writing a whole new set, and a 3-minute set, but that's 3 minutes. That's a
lot. Yeah.
That's substantial when you have no catalog of material or even a voice yet. You don't know who you are. And then I would be like, that guy's doing the same material. I've heard that joke 7 times. Well, yeah. So I thought, okay, I'm going to start doing my set, and then I'll try to add a joke, or I'll try to expand that joke.
Yeah.
Then I started going, oh, wait a minute. So I could use this almost as a gymnasium for comedy. Then things really, really changed for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So I did really well my first time too. And it was at Laughs, and it went really well. I almost left right before I went on too. So I was so scared. But yeah, it went really well. And Daryl Rhodes was there that night. He was the headliner, and he was like super impressed. He came up after the show. He's like, hey man, how long you been doing stand-up? I was like, 5 minutes. And he's like, wow, this is your first time? I was like, yeah. He's like, that was great. Freddie Charles was there that night. That was cool. It was a good sized crowd. And then I actually did a guest spot the next Sunday. Russ offered
that
me,
soon?
Yeah, he offered me a guest
wow.
spot the following Sunday, which I had no idea what that was or anything. So I had to ask him, like, what is going on? And then I bombed horribly using the same material. And so then he comes back and he's like, come back next Sunday, do another guest set. I was like, you saw me bomb, right? He's like, yeah. He's like, just a small crowd. I was like, okay, cool. So I went back the next Sunday, bombed again.
And was that already the Russ Rivas days?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he taught me how to like build my act, like how to like don't try to do a new set every week like you did. Like he was telling me about building an act and stuff. And
yeah. See, I didn't know Russ Rivas back then.
Yeah.
And so no one told me that.
Yeah.
Although
yeah,
Russ Rivas. He's the first comedian I ever saw live there at Laughs.
Oh, really?
Time. Yeah, long before I even tried comedy myself.
Oh, wow.
It was him and Tim O'Rourke.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was my
cool.
introduction, and I'm like, this is the coolest.
Yeah.
It's the coolest thing ever.
That's so awesome, man. Yeah, it was a fun experience. Yeah, like you did a good job your first time, so it's like, all right, I'm a comedian now. And then, then when I bombed, I was like, okay, I'm not a comedian yet.
See, I started there, and this was back in the Gary Bynum days. He's the one that founded the Laughs chain. And at that time, he had the Albuquerque Laughs, the Colorado Springs Laughs, and the Oklahoma City Laughs.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and the Tucson. He had 4.
Tucson, yeah, he had 4.
I forgot about the Tucson Laughs.
That's weird. You spent some time there, right?
Yeah, a little bit. So he had the 4. So it was like you really wanted to, not that you weren't concerned about impressing Russ. I don't mean that. But with Gary, as soon if you got in his good graces,
mm-hmm.
He'd book you, all 4 clubs.
Oh yeah.
So as as an MC, even you're sleeping on the couch, that was still a phenomenal experience.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how I started, was going to Colorado Springs and Tucson, and then I got banned from Tucson for a year or 2, and then the guy was nice enough to let me come back.
Club owners, huh?
Yeah, right. That was weird.
That was me.
That was you.
But tell everybody out there in the internet audience, tell our listeners at home what happened.
I canceled super last minute.
You broke one of the cardinal rules of comedy.
Yeah.
First one is ape shall not kill ape, which I really mean. And then the second is you don't cancel like right before the thing. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I'm not gonna make it.
I know. I felt super bad. God, that was so long ago.
And I remember I yelled at you and I told you
sure
to lose
did.
my number.
You did say lose your number. And I did. I lost it. And then, of course, you'd come to Laughs in Albuquerque. Moves. You came to Laughs in Albuquerque and performed, and I was like, God damn it, now I got to avoid him.
So how did we patch that up? Because
we actually got booked together in Colorado Springs one week, and we worked the week together. And then when we were getting paid, you were like, hey, if I book you in Tucson again, will you show up? And I was like, yeah.
Was that the week where that was me, you, and
who was featuring that week?
Axeman? No, what was his name? Axelman? No, what was?
God, that was so long ago.
I don't remember, but I do remember.
2005 or 2006.
No, it was before that, wasn't it?
I went back to Tucson in 2006. I remember.
Oh wow!
Because I worked with Merrifield and Nathan Timmel.
Mike Merrifield, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I remember I got a flat tire on the way there, and I was like, God damn, if I miss this show. I'm so glad I left early enough.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we patched that up.
Me too. Yeah.
Because you worked. It seemed like you worked for us quite a bit.
Yeah, I did.
We booked you in the casino one nighter that was attached, and
oh yeah. Actually, I remember the first time you booked me to feature in Tucson, we ended up working together at the casino. You had like a fallout or something, so you filled in the headline. And I had never done well at that casino. And
is that the casino I was booking?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And I was just like, I'm going to eat shit in front of him. He's going to take my feature spot away. And the crowd was just horrible. And I couldn't get anything. And I remember even your material was struggling. But when you improvised, you did really well. I remember you making a joke about it. You told the lady, like, when I'm doing my material, I'll stand right here. When I'm improvising, I'll stand up here.
Oh, because the stage had two levels.
Yeah, because like where the drummer would have his stuff or whatever. But you also,
I do remember that.
That same night, you came up with a joke, and it was just so brilliant because you just improvised it all.
That was the a long time ago. So and I have no idea how, like, that joke just came out of me.
I know
it was 99% polished. Like it was.
Because next time I saw you, you're doing that joke, and it was word for word how it came out of your mouth.
Yeah, and it was something about a young guy, music when he masturbated.
Yeah,
and it was like a rock song. It's a rock song, and I'm like, but us older guys would be like, long time ago.
Oh, it's so funny. And then
that was my closer. That was my closer for quite a while, that bit.
You sang like the whole first verse.
Did it not that long ago. And now I have the audience sing with me.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Were you there? You were also there the night that I was getting heckled by a guy that looked like Sam Elliott from Roadhouse.
Yes.
He had the long gray hair.
Yep.
And I started calling him Miho.
Yeah.
That's right, Miho. That was fun.
I remember one of my favorites. Like I wrote a few things down that were some of my favorites. I'll see if you remember any of these. Do you remember when Ron Bell was in the audience, and you did your entire set about it?
Ron Bell, the big billboard lawyer here, and he pulled up in a limo, and like a bunch of girls got out, like it was his birthday or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I said something about, I need to write your next commercial, because he was doing a lot of commercials.
Mm-hmm.
And like these two guys were at a bar, and like, what's wrong? It's like, oh, I wrecked my car and I don't know what to do. And then the disco music started. You can ring Ron Bell. A couple years later, he did a commercial that was not too dissimilar than that.
I remember that.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's my commercial.
I remember I watched him the entire time that you made fun of him. And he was dying. He fell out of his chair at one point. He was laughing so hard. Plus, he was pretty wasted.
He was pretty wasted, which is why he bought 10 of my CDs after the show. I'm like, they're the same CD. He kept taking them. Like, they're not like, it's not like my greatest hits.
Yeah, it's like, it's not the show I just did.
I do remember that. What else? What else?
Oh.
What else as we're taking this trip down memory lane?
Okay, do you remember when the guy proposed to his girlfriend right before you went on stage? And Lori Brownstone was hosting?
And was that here in Albuquerque?
Yeah.
I do remember that. I did.
Okay,
yeah.
so I remember as Lori brings you up, she's walking off stage. You get down on your knee and you go, Lori, wait. And she turns around. And you're like getting all sentimental with her. And the look on her face is so funny. She has no idea what's going on. And then you're just like, I've got to ask you something. Can you give me a Diet Coke?
And Lori was like me. She started comedy late in life. Mm-hmm. And we're probably about the same age. And so she just looked like your typical, like, not even like soccer mom. She just, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all. Yeah. But just, it's not like, you know, oh, here's the hot chick and I want to pretend like I'm proposing. You know, it wasn't anything like that. I do remember that. I do remember that.
That was super funny. I remember there's another one I didn't even write down. You were talking about what is it called? Where they bury the pig?
The matanza.
Yeah. Do you remember that?
Is that the night the guy stood up? I was like, you're talking about abusing animals.
Yeah.
Like he was really upset. Like he stood up and was yelling at me because the joke was, so if you don't know what a matanza is, it's where you bury the pig in the, you know, we got the pig in the ground. We got the beer on ice. And I said something about you have to shoot the pig because otherwise they put up a big fuss. And then I had this whole joke about shooting the pig, and he got totally incensed. Mm-hmm. You know, animal rights. I get it. I get it. No pigs were harmed in the production of my my headliner set. And he's like screaming at me, "You're making fun of animal abuse!" And no. And Terry, the manager, comes running out, and she's like right behind him, and I wave her off. And I'm like, "Sir, look, I'm sorry. It's just jokes. And if I offended you, I'm sorry. But this is what this is what a matanza is." And I was really trying to talk like very like almost teacherly. Mm-hmm. Like, so you have to, you know, you dispatch the pig, you know, and you put him in the ground, and then when you pull him out, you take his head and you fuck him in the head. I don't know. Can we say?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
I don't do that as much anymore. So that's why I did I whispered the F word.
That's good.
If you whisper the F word, then
I think people understand what you're getting at.
So the guy ended up walking out. He walked. Yeah. And I've never been one of those guys. I remember when I started comedy, there were so many guys that looked at walking people like there's this badge of honor.
Yeah.
I walked 3 people tonight. I have walked people. But not and I always feel bad about it because that's not. I mean, yes, I cuss on stage. Yes, I said that night.
Well, especially since you're a club owner too, so you get it on that side where you're like, yeah, I don't want customers leaving.
Well, yeah, because you know I learned so much about the two sides of the coin with comedy because I was doing both. I was running a club, I was booking a club, and then I was also still performing, and I would tell people, God, I hate dealing with bookers. And I was one. God, I hate club owners. And I was one. And then I'd think, God, oh my God, comics are the worst. And I was one. You know, and it's just, there's like no, and that animosity that kind of exists. And I don't know if we're talking about something that's gone. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen after, you know, I don't know. So maybe this is ancient history now. I don't know. Like, I don't know if comics are going to experience this anymore. Like if you're doing a Zoom show, you're going to walk people. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess you could, but
you have no idea.
They're not going to walk out cussing you out or you can't throw a beer bottle at the comic through a Zoom thing. But there was, when I started, there was definitely this animosity that existed between comics and club owners.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it from both sides. And you know, I saw so many comics that, you know, I wanted, whether I ran a good club or not is definitely open for debate. I think I did. I know there's people that thought otherwise, but I wanted to. My desire was to run a good club, and I would get so frustrated when somebody would not have good, like not treat it like I'm going to be professional.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a fine line, you know, like and I don't even mean like being a dirty comic. If that's who you are, that's fine. But if we book you as not a dirty comic, and that's when you decide. There was a guy that we booked him off a Craig Kilborn's set. Craig Kilborn?
Mm-hmm.
Craig.
Yeah.
I got the name? Yeah. Wow. So we booked him off this TV set. He's a guy out of LA. He shows up in Tucson, and we booked him during the Christmas season, which at that time meant businesses would bring their entire staffs in. And it was huge times. And that's when he decides to do his dirty set. And I pulled him aside and I said, "What? We booked you off this set, and now you're giving us this set." And he's like, "I'm sorry, I'll tone it down." And the second show, he did almost the same set.
Oh, really?
And one company, they're like, "We're not paying." And so we had to fight, and it was like, and we lost all that business. And they were going to never come back. And I guarantee you, they never did. And I pulled him aside. I said, "I took that one joke out about wiping my stomach with my sock." So I fired him midweek, and I don't remember who I put it as. So there was somebody there, like was just hanging out, a headliner, and I put him in the place. But I let him stay I paid him for the week, and I said, "You can stay. I'll feed you dinner every night. Maybe you'll learn something." And I've seen him on Netflix. I've seen him on TV, and God bless. But I'm dealing with customers at that moment. See, and that's where it's different. Comics a lot of times don't realize that there's a whole nother part of this comedy stuff. Mm-hmm. Like even the comics now here that are producing their own shows. We're at this place, and then 3 months later, that's our last show. We're going to try to move it. And then I come to find out it's because an incident happened. Mm-hmm. And
that happens all the time.
Right. And so it's like, I get it. Freedom of speech. I get it. But in my mind, you have to decide, you know, if you want your freedom of speech, maybe, I don't know, maybe you go to the college campus and stand on a soapbox. I don't know. And I'm not saying that's what you should do. I'm just saying that where you're at, there's somebody paying the light bill. Mm-hmm. You know, like, I don't know. It's a funny thing. And I wonder, like, the comics today in this market, because we don't have a club here in Albuquerque anymore. Yeah. And we have casinos that book, but they don't book out of Albuquerque. Like, in fact, if you're an Albuquerque comic, they don't want to book generally Albuquerque comics. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's slowly starting to change. So for me, for this particular company that's in another part of the country that books a big casino here, I'm not an Albuquerque comic as far as they're concerned. Mm-hmm. I'm a touring comic. And it's like I almost can't.
Yeah, same here.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. Yep. And what it is somebody from here went and messed it up for everybody. Mm-hmm. So
I think it was more than one, actually.
Yeah. And part of that, I think because we don't have a club and the scene still exists, and I got to say this carefully because I don't mean this as an insult to any of the local comics. I give you so much credit. I don't think that I would have been able to figure out how to do comedy and how to get into comedy had there not been a club.
Same here.
The club is what formed me, and then that club booked me, And then that club sold me a club. So I took these weird shortcuts. I don't think I'd be able to do it today.
If you were just starting out.
But the other side of that, there's always two sides of that coin. The other side of that coin is there's certain times where it becomes this almost Lord of the Flies kind of thing. And there's no grown-ups to supervise. And
exactly.
Weird habits start, and weird. I don't know. And I'm saying this just as a distant observer because I don't really do the local bar shows, and not because I feel like I'm better. Yes, there's a big part of me that feels like I've paid my dues. Yeah, and maybe I didn't. I don't know. Compared to other people, I never slept in my car. I never took a gig because they'd give you a hamburger at the end of the show, and that would be the only food I'd eat. I was never in that situation, but I did my open mics, and I did my one-nighters, and I did my shit gigs, and I did my slug fests, where it was just heckler after heckler, but yet there was a club owner that had real specific, you had to do things. So I don't do a lot of the bar shows. And I don't know that I could. I think my comedy is different. I will say that I do feel this for the first time in my life that I'm the old guard now. I'm the older group of comics. There's sometimes I feel like I'm this caveman that's been chipped out of the ice, and it's like I don't even know what they're talking. I mean, not topic wise, but a lot of times I'm just like, wow. I don't know where you're going with this joke. And then sometimes there's this resolution that I was like, wow, I did not see that coming. That's brilliant. And then there's other times, oh, yeah, you don't know where you're going with this joke. So I don't know. I do give the locals a lot of credit. But then, like I said, when I see that, well, this gig got shut down, and it's because somebody, called the bar's owner's wife something.
Yeah, that's why I feel like I was lucky that I started at Laughs too, because I got to see the business side of show business as well. Right. And I think that helped me. Plus, it helped me write. Like I was telling Sarah Kennedy last week on my show, I was able to learn how to write for a comedy club audience.
Right.
And that helped a lot.
Right. And I wanted to work in clubs. And so I wanted to be in club. Yes, I wanted to work on my craft, and yes, I wanted to learn how to do this, and yes, I wanted to be creative, but I wanted to be viable in the business side of it too. So, and again, maybe someone would say I never did pay my dues because I had this great home club that really supported the comics and would pack the place out, and then would let me do guest sets on a Saturday night, which there was nothing better than that. And then I wrote a song parody, and that's what moved me from open mic to paid comedian was my song parody. And the next thing I know, I was working that chain, and then that got me into some other clubs. And before I knew it, I was actually working with a day job. So, and my day job, and again, I always feel like I just had a very different situation. I wasn't like I was flipping burgers during the day and then doing comedy at night. I had a career. I was working in public schools. I was an administrator, for the love of poop, and then doing comedy on the side. So then school would end, and then I'd have the whole summer, and that's when I would take gigs and go on the road.
Oh, cool.
And so, it was a very, my path was very different than most people. And in a lot of ways it was much easier. And I do recognize that, and I'm grateful for that. But it also afforded me some education in the business that I can't foresee people in the scene that we have now gaining that same education. Until they do break into clubs, and then they might find out the hard way. Hopefully not. I'm not saying, oh, I heard about an incident, except that they were booking locals at the big casino here, and then all of a sudden that stopped. So that does tell me that somebody misstepped.
A lot of it was just them going over their time.
And there you go. Yes, of course.
It's like,
and
you've got 10 minutes, stick to 10 minutes. Like, I heard there were 2 comics that went over 20 minutes in their 10-minute spot. And that's kind of what.
And so what does the casino do? Generally, I don't know about this one because I've never been at this one when someone went over. They cut the headliner's time out. Mm-hmm. Well, if I'm the headliner and you're the MC,
yeah,
you're going to take a chunk of my time.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have a problem, you and I.
Yeah.
And that's, and to this day, when someone goes along, it bothers me.
Yeah.
Because I remember I did it early on. You do not do that.
I went long on one show one time. I still feel bad about it, even though it was 7 or 8 years ago. And like, it might have been longer than that. I was featuring for Stephen Michael Quesada at a gig at a Moose Lodge here in town. And as a feature, they wanted me to do 45. And I forgot my watch. And I'm used to doing 30 at that point. So right. I could fill out 30 like no problem. 45, I didn't know. Like it felt like I just kept going, and I was like, I don't know if this is 45 or not. So I just keep going. And then I got off stage and it was like an hour and 15 minutes. I was like, holy shit, that's not good. And I was just apologizing to everybody. And like Steven was fine with it, but I mean, like everyone else, like they didn't even seem to care, but I felt horrible about it because that's way too long.
See, and Steven has so many other things going on mm-hmm. that I'm sure that was, whatever. And he went up and did his thing. Uh-huh. But in a club setting, first show,
at a club,
and we got to get these people out of here, and we got to turn the room and get these next people in.
Yeah.
Or a casino where they can calculate to the minute the number of people. And every minute that show goes long, how much the casino is losing in gambling revenue,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. What, I don't know. So I still am very sensitive. I'm sensitive to that. I also learned right away about how when I was the MC, how I had to keep it cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
Then, because I didn't, and I don't know if a lot of people understand that. They're like, I say what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good for you. But if you're setting the bar for a comic who's coming on after you, that's not
mm-hmm.
going to be talking about those things. When they're the one that's really the lion's share of the show, they're the star of the show. It's like, come on, man. Mm-hmm. That happened at a gig here in town, at a hotel gig that I did.
Oh, really?
And it was funny. It was Ray Romano was in town, and he was staying at that hotel. And,
yeah.
And I could see him in the line. So let's go. And there's comedy going. Let's go look. And the opener was doing literal feces jokes. Literal, not shit jokes. I'm talking literal jokes about fecal matter, not even about fecal experiences, like full blown turd in the bowl. And Ray came in and listened for about 10 seconds and walked out. I would have loved Ray to see my set.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, that's bad. That's bad form. I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and you get to say, I get it. First Amendment, freedom of speech. I get it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like when you're starting out too, like I was like that, I wanted to kind of push the envelope a little bit and shock people, And luckily I had the comedy club because I had comics pull me aside and say, wait until you're featuring or headlining to do that shit,
Right.
When you're hosting, like keep it pretty clean, don't swear a lot. Don't talk about bowel movements and shit.
Bowel movements and shit, which is literally what I'm telling you.
One of the first times I ever saw Mark Shooter, He did his whole 5-minute set was about shitting. And I remember I had to go on after him, and I was like, hey, was that last guy any good? I was taking a shit.
And yet I've seen guys do like creative shit jokes.
Yeah, it can be done.
But those are
most of them are corny.
That's white buffalo stuff. You know what I mean? Like that's you're never going to see that. And if you're doing that, and I have found some old tapes of like when I first started, and I was much dirtier than I became when I became my character.
Mm-hmm.
But in the club setting, at least when I started, I don't know if that's going to be the case anymore. I don't know if that's still the case. I don't know. I think comedy has changed. I've not done any Zoom shows. I've done some Zoom like motivational stuff, like presentations, like speeches,
cool.
And that was cool because it was different. I did a show not probably right now, maybe late April, May, up in Santa Fe, in the Jean Cocteau Theater. Have you done that one? Yeah,
I love it.
And it was the camera, no cameraman, and the camera and me in the theater. And so, and I did my set, the silent, no return, no laughter. I did my set, and I was real pleased with it. I learned a lot. I was like, wow, okay, I could do this. It's not, I don't want to do it, and I became the crowd work guy. And it's hard to do when there's no one in the crowd.
Oh, I had another thing on my notes here. My favorite crowd work I've ever seen in my life was you're performing at Laughs. There are two guys in the front row you're picking on. And then you asked them both their names. They both had the same name. One was in his 40s, one was in his 20s. They both had the same career also. And you said, you see what's going on here? This is you from the future. He's here to give you the sports almanac. And I was in the back just fucking dying. I was laughing so hard. And I still think about it all the time.
I remember driving away from that show going, God, if I could have that situation every show, that's never come up again.
Yeah.
I've tried to manipulate it to do the sports almanac joke.
Yeah.
And it never worked. But that was, yeah. But what's funny is I like my crowd work.
Yeah.
I have to be on stage, and you've experienced this, and other comics listening, you've experienced, well, hopefully, I would assume, I call it the two brains, where I have my one brain that's performing and doing the joke. And then I have the other brain that's going, okay, I got to remember to do this setup. I got to, holy crap, that was great. That worked better than it's ever worked before. And once I started really doing crowd work, my this brain, or I don't know what hemisphere.
It's like a behind the scenes brain.
Yeah. That brain would tell my other brain, do some material. Because I've done shows where I've done no material. And I enjoy that, and I like it. And I know when it's working, when it's not. When it's not working, I'm going to go back, to my poop jokes. But and I don't know if this has changed, but it was really a disrespected way of doing comedy for a long time.
Oh, really?
And yeah, in fact, I know that I don't work certain clubs because I do a lot of crowd work.
Yeah, I know some clubs that won't book comics who do a lot of crowd work.
And
still,
and my, it fits my persona on stage, and I want to, it's like we're gonna all play, which also means I open myself up to being heckled, and that's okay, because I'm not a monologist, and so, and I guess it still freaks clubs that were like from the 80s. Like in the 80s, if you did that, you're just never gonna, you're a hack.
Yeah.
Because you're making stuff up on the spot. We want to see your crafted material. But there's been shows where I slipped back into material, and I could almost sense the crowd going, no, play with us, we're having fun. And working with guys like Brian Bradley out of Florida, who he does a ton of crowd work, and he kind of made me feel okay about doing it, because I would slip into it because I like doing it. And I think I'm good at it.
You're great at it.
And thank you. But I always thought, well, maybe I am hacky. Maybe I am cheating. And then I would see Brian, and he'd be like, we're here for the crowd. The crowd's eating it up. Mm-hmm. And then we started doing actual improv together. And then I was like, okay, well, if this club doesn't want to book me because I do that, then that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. The third show, I don't want to do the same set.
Third
show I ever did was with Brian. Brian was the headliner.
Oh, really?
Yep. And I remember watching him. There's like 12 people in the crowd, and he improvised a song at the end that included all 12 people in the song. And it was just one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen. I was like, holy shit, how does he do that?
Yeah. Yeah, he's a master.
Yeah.
Have you ever done any like actual improv on stage? Like,
I did at Laughs a few times, and I was horrible. But it was funny how bad I was, I think. I think the crowd enjoyed that.
Well, the first time I ever did it was at the Laughs in Albuquerque, and I was the MC, and they booked an improv troupe. So guess what the improv troupe did?
They bring you up on stage or what?
They did improv. Yes, they would improvise, and they played a game called Schmepperdy, and it's a Jeopardy, satire game. And they put the bar stools on the stage. You turn them around so you're standing like behind a podium. And I'm like, I have no idea what we're doing. And they're picking categories out of thin air. I'll take cartoon characters for 500, Alex. And the audience would yell out the answer. And the answer would be, like Huckleberry Finn. And, a bad example would be, what disease does a fish get? Whatever. And the category was country music. And someone yelled out, I went to bed with a 10 and woke up with a 2. And I went, what is the John Wayne Bobbitt theme song? And I got a huge response. And that was it for me. Mm-hmm. For the rest, I couldn't figure out anything else to do. It was,
Yeah.
So again, I got one good one, and then tanked for quite a while.
It was funny. I worked with an improv group like early on when I was hosting, and I was like, this is so cool. They're going to do a different show every night, but they didn't.
Was that the Stage Benders?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're very funny.
No, they're great. Yeah.
And they're great guys.
Great show.
But their improv is not real improv. And I think it's because they like, all right, somebody yell out a kind of fruit. Mm-hmm. Well, okay. You're going to get banana, you know what I mean? Like if you ask the question right.
They've done so many of those over the years where it's just like, all right, let's do this. It's crazy. I saw one of them fall off the stage that week too. It's kind of funny.
One of them is in one of those, do you have an annuity commercial? I have a taxi annuity and I need cash
Wentworth?
Now. J.G. Wentworth. It's the J.G. Wentworth, and he was.
Oh, really?
He was the Viking on the bus.
No way.
Yeah, and now they've redone that commercial, and there's somebody else who's now the Viking. But he was.
Viking.
I always couldn't remember who was who. It was Gust and Kim.
Gust was the short guy. Kim was the taller guy.
There was Gust. He was the Viking.
Oh, cool.
I have a cash annuity, but I need cash now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guys are cool. I liked them. But yeah, it was interesting to see that not every show was totally different like I was expecting.
Right.
I was like, wait a minute. Hey, we already, I only like to do like 45 minutes here, but we've already hit like 50 something. Would you mind telling the William Shatner story before we go?
There's times in my life, whoa, excuse me. There's times in my life that I feel like I've had a blessed life in comedy. Like, you know, the way that I started late and the way that things just fell into place for me. And, you know, I never had to sleep in my car. And it just seemed like I was charmed for a while. It faded. But even so early on, I was in high school. So this would have been like 78, 79. And I worked for the Mercedes dealership here in Albuquerque. It's no longer exists. It was European Imports. And this was before the days of Comic-Con. And Comic-Con, the way Comic-Con exists now, you know, Comic-Con used to be comic books. Then it became this whole sci-fi kind of fantasy thing. Well, it started with Star Trek conventions. They were that was the first thing that kind of morphed into the Comic-Con that we know now.
Oh, really?
And one of the first places that had a Comic-Con convention was Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I grew up, I'm a huge Star Trek fan. Let's see, can you see above my door? There's an Enterprise. You can't see it. I'm a huge Star Trek fan. And so Shatner is in town for the Star Trek convention. I couldn't afford to go. So I'm working at European Imports, and they used to have this wall of keys. And there'd be a guy, like almost like a air traffic controller. He was up like 2 stories up in this glass booth. And if whoever was walking up, Jim, bring up 32. And you go grab key 32 and bring the car around. So I'm walking through the bay. Goff, bring 19. So I run over and I pull key 19. I run out the lot. There's 19. There's a Mercedes. And come to find out that Shatner was a Mercedes guy, and every place he'd go, he would rent a Mercedes. So I bring the car around, which I had done many times. It was no big deal. But there was a lot of people like watching. Like, why would you watch Mavis pick up her car? You know? But there was a lot of people. So I pull up, and I pull right up to Shatner, and he opens the door, and I look up, and it's William frickin' Shatner. And I stick my hand out like to shake his hand. Well, he just grabs me and just like starts pulling me out, like pull me out of the car. Yeah, yes, get out of the car, you know. And I go, and now I'm like shaking. That was the first time I ever had met a celebrity, besides Bob Barker, when my mom and dad won the TV on the game show. So, and I want to say something to him, right? And I go, Mr. Shatner, I'm your idol. And without missing a beat, Shatner's actually very funny. And without missing a beat, he goes, well, it's a good thing I met you then. And he pulled me out of the car and got in and drove off. And everybody, all the guys working at the place were just dying laughing. And I thought they were laughing because I'm like fanboying over Shatner. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, shut up. That was Shatner, man. Shut up. I don't care. And I'm driving home and I'm replaying it in my head. And I'm like, I'm Mr. Shatner. I'm your you're my, oh, Mr. Shatner, I'm your idol. Holy crap. So I thought, well, this is a great story. So then every time Shatner was on a talk show, I made sure I watched, because I thought to myself, one day he's going to tell this story. Because, how often has it happened before? Probably not. So he was on Letterman one night. It might have been sometime in the 80s. And of course, I'm watching. And he's telling this story about he's skiing in Aspen. And it's the same time that Princess Diana and some of the royal family are in Aspen skiing. And he's skiing down this run and he falls. And he turns over, and the way he's described, this beautiful blonde angelic woman reaches down and starts to help me up. And I realize that it's Princess Diana. And I said, Your Highness, you're my loyal subject. And she laughed and skied away. And I thought, Shatner stole my story. He took my story and turned it around and hacked my story.
Oh, I love it, man. That's so funny.
Shatner.
Oh, man. Well, I had a good time chatting with you, buddy.
I did too. I haven't seen you in a while, so I'm glad you're back.
Is there any way people can follow you on social media?
Yes. Well, I'm 58 years old.
Yeah.
So I'm on Facebook.
Definitely.
I know I have an Instagram because I keep getting messages that somebody wants to follow me. I'm not like you, Curt. I don't know. I'm not I don't do your slap craps and your Insta tweeties. I don't know. I'm pretty sure. I like my Facebook.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah. I'm on Facebook a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed. All right, so so everyone go follow him on Facebook.
Yes.
We'll have a good time. And you're
Scotty
still doing
Goff.
shows?
Scotty Goff on Facebook. Even though I just changed it to Scotty Goff, it was my professional name. It was my R. Scott Goff for some strange reason for the longest time. Like,
yeah.
Really?
No, we didn't even get to bring up that I think it was your cousin was my high school principal.
My uncle was your high school principal.
Uncle. That's right.
His name is Russell Goff, and my name is Russell Goff.
Yep.
Which is why I'm having trouble today. Today, I've been to the DMV 4 times trying to get my real ID because my birth certificate doesn't match my social security, doesn't match my this, doesn't match. I have it's R. Scott, it's Russell Scott, it's Scott, it's Scotty. I may never fly again, Curt.
You might not. You'll be fine though, I think.
If the world reopens and there's shows again, I'll make it work. You'll figure it out.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today, Scotty.
Thanks for having me. I can't believe we did this much time. It seems like we've been on for 3 minutes.
I know, yeah. It went by super fast.
I feel bad I went long.
No, you're fine. I didn't even let you. All right, Scotty. Well, you take care, man. And,
okay.
I hope to see you around sometime.
And all the Albuquerque locals, anything I said offended you. I did not mean that. I have nothing but love for you. I'm impressed that you guys do what you do as well as you do it. And like I said earlier, I don't think I could have done it. I needed I needed someone to take me by the hand and say, do this, don't do that. And you guys figure it out somehow. Yep. I don't know. So God bless you. Curt, God bless you.
All right, Scotty. Well, you take care and have fun watching those all those game shows.
All the game shows and Star Trek reruns.
Court TV and not Court TV. The
People's Court.
Court TV is not even a thing anymore.
I like Judge Judy too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, she's all right.
You know why you had me on your podcast here, Curt?
Why?
Because they keep me here because I'm smart, not because I'm gorgeous. All right, Curdy.
All right, Scotty. Take care, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. That was a lot of fun talking to Scotty. It's been a couple years, I think, since I've seen him. Man, just one of the funniest and nicest guys you'll ever meet. He's one thing I loved about Scotty is when you work at his club in Tucson, if you're struggling with a joke, trying to figure out the wording or something like that, you can go to Scotty and he could fix it up in just a couple of seconds, he'll have the wording for you, just perfectly. And that was always fun. Super cool talking to him. This week I'm going to be performing in Tulsa at the Looney Bin Wednesday through Saturday with my good friend Tim Gaither, which I'm super excited about. I haven't seen Tim since March, so this will be a lot of fun. I'm going to hopefully film some stuff out there and put it out online. We got this I think it's a super funny idea that we're going to work on and release on Halloween that I'm super excited about. Also, next week I'm going to be in Little Rock, Arkansas with Steve McGrew. That'll be Wednesday through Saturday also. So that's pretty much it. I just want to thank Jarrett Reddick from Bowling for Soup and John Singleton from Anesthesia for doing music for the podcast. And I do have a store on my website if you want to buy some merch. And for podcast listeners, there is an online code if you type in the Rye podcast, and that's all capitals with no spaces. You get 10% off of your purchase on my website. So it's pretty cool. And if you want to donate to the website, you can always do that on Venmo at Funny Fletcher. That's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in. Next week should be another fun one. I have John Westling, a comedian from Houston, who's going to be on next week. So I'm super excited about talking to John. So thanks for tuning in, everyone.